Hi, my name is Janae. I am 22 years old and I'm a second year architecture student at the University of Southern California. Now that might have sounded simple, but let me tell you, it was a lot of work just getting to that statement. So any of you that have watched my YouTube channel or you've been on this whole studying architecture journey with me, well, you know, I started my studies at USC my first year in the fall of 2019 when I was 18 years old. Now, if you calculate correctly, seeing that I'm second year and 22 years old, there's a 3-year gap in between, which I'm going to break down what exactly went down in the past 3 years. So let's begin, shall we? With year one. So at the end of my second semester, we were all on Zoom University, adjusting to that life because we were in the middle of a pandemic. So come to fall 2020 now, which would have been the start of my second year, we were all online for the pandemic. Now you already know the COVID-19 pandemic had quite a great effect on the entire world's economy, and for the economy of my small country called the Bahamas, where we sustain ourselves on tourism, it completely destroyed our economy. It really did. Unfortunately, because of this, my family was no longer able to support my education financially, and so I had to take a step back, and that's when I went into my first gap year. So during this gap year, everybody was in the pandemic, so I wasn't too stressed. I was just like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take this time. In a year we're gonna be out of this and I'll be back in school. So during that time I was at home. I just focused on art and stuff. I tried to keep myself occupied, read books and watched videos about architecture, just tried to keep myself going. But I'm not gonna lie, it was still hard. Everybody took the pandemic differently. I tried my best to stay positive, but there are times I was really down and really upset because I felt like I was being left behind by my classmates. But I was, optimistic. I was like, it's okay. In a year, I'll be back in school and it'll all be good. The second year comes around and I am still not able to afford to go back to school, and it was really devastating for me again. I felt like I was in this limbo period where I was not in school, and I had to remind myself that my goal was always to become an architect, and I can be an architect by different means, several different ways. Only going back to USC was not what was going to determine whether I could be an architect or not. So I had to keep moving forward. Even though USC was my dream school and I wanted to go back, I know I just couldn't wait. That's why during this second year, I decided to pursue my education at the University of the Bahamas, where I started as a second year architecture student. Now, I love my country, I really do, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to education personally, I think. But a lot of things we're still getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. The architecture program at the University of the Bahamas, it's a 5-year BArch program. The program is very new. I will say I cannot remember exactly when it came out, but I believe when I started, it was less than 5 years old at the time. It was fairly new program. Regardless of that, I was so excited. I remember being so excited to go back to school and be like, you know what? I don't even care if it's not USC. I'm just excited to begin doing architecture work again. It was really an exciting time for me. We got announced that our classes were all online, which I was very upset about because I was really looking forward to going back and being able to interact with people, but everything was online, sadly. So I tried to stay as optimistic as possible. However, I found that the level of work at the University of Bahamas, it honestly felt like a more slightly advanced art class from high school. It did not feel like second year, and it honestly did not match the level of knowledge that I gained from my first year at USC. So even though I was very optimistic, I felt like I was not really developing any any more skills from studying architecture. So from that, I started putting a lot of minimal work into my assignment, which I found that even though I put in minimal effort, I still got really great feedback from my professors. They really were impressed by my work, even though I was not trying that hard. And because of that, I fell into very bad work habits. I started procrastinating a lot. I would do my work probably an hour or two before our class. Even though I was not able to advance in the way I wanted to at the University of Bahamas, the biggest takeaway I had from there were the people I met. Oh my gosh, my classmates were absolutely amazing. They were great. And it just made me feel like the school was doing them such a disservice, because I feel like if the program was organized differently, or if the curricula was correlated at a higher level, the work that they would be able to produce would be so much greater than what they actually did. I think I learned the most from my classmates, and I think that the Bahamas has a strong future for our future architects. So I'm looking forward to being able to work with a lot of them in the future. I asked them to keep me in their studio group chat so I can hear all the stuff they're talking about, which is funny. I feel like studio culture is honestly universal when it comes to architecture. We have the same problems, the same stresses, so I just find it all so entertaining. But if any of you are watching this, I'm happy I met y'all. I'm looking forward to working with you all in the future. Yes, go Bahamas. Go 242. From being at University of Bahamas, I started to realize that, I should continue to move forward, and that I would love to go back to the States to finish my architecture education. So I spent the year applying to colleges to see how best I could get back to the States to continue my education. This is where, after my second year, I was able to transfer to a school called Academy of Art University in San Francisco, where I went to do my 2.5 year. Although my credits from USC transferred, half of my credits from the University of the Bahamas transferred to Academy of Art because of the different, education system. So instead of going to my third year, I went into my second semester of my second year at Academy of Art University, which brings us to our third year. Going back to the States, I was so excited. I was jumping for joy. I was like, yes, I'm getting to go back to America because we love America. I was going to be able to start my architecture classes again. I was so excited. I'm like, yes, I'm going to be challenged. It's going to work me hard. Now, the second I touch down in America and I get into my dorm and I go to talk to my advisor about my classes, is when I found out that all of my classes were online. So I didn't even really have to be in America. I could have been at home. But, nonetheless, I was like, you know what? I'm still excited to be out here, even if it's online. So I went into the situation just like hoping for the best case scenario. But what happened is that all my classes were online and asynchronous, which meant that every Sunday we had deliverables. But for most of my classes, I never even met my teachers. For my studio class, we met once a week on Zoom. But then other than that, everything was just due Sundays for all of my class. And this was a structure I was not used to. It took me some time to get used to, but I also struggled with it a lot, especially now because of the bad work and procrastination habits that I had gathered over the previous years. So I struggled so badly, and I especially struggled from the isolation. So I spent all my time in my dorm room just doing my work. I tried my best to go out and mingle with the people who lived in my dorm building, which I did make a couple of friends, but that also further exacerbated my procrastination habits. The work itself I found very interesting. I completed some great projects during this time, which I was very interested in. However, I did struggle a lot. This led me to failing my first class. I've always loved school. I've never had any issue with school. I never in my history of education would have thought that I, Janae, would ever fail a class, but I did. It was a studio, by the way. Listen, I may fail a class, but I would never fail a studio. Yeah, that was quite a shock. So anyways, That was the end of the first semester. Second semester now, where I'm in my first semester of my third year. The semester was better. I still struggled a bit, but didn't fail any classes this time. It was definitely better. At this time, my roommate, she moved out and got an apartment in the city. So now I was alone in my room even more. It just wasn't easy a lot of the times. So I had to fight to keep myself motivated. It was rough, as those things can be. Toward the end of my third semester, a month before we end for the summer, President Biden sent out a notice that declared that the United States is no longer in a pandemic. What that meant for international students is that in order to maintain your visa status, not to get your visa revoked, we would be limited to the amount of online classes that we could take. The Academy of Art University is a much smaller school. My semester and semester above me, so my year and up, our class was a lot smaller. I talked to my advisor and the school said that unfortunately for the rest of my degree, majority of my classes would be online. So that would mean that if I stayed at Academy of Art University, I would lose my student visa. At this time, my family and I discussed, reevaluated everything. 3 years had passed. And with 3 years, even though I felt like I did a lot and a whole lot of nothing as well, I managed to gain some more scholarships. And we were now at a point where I could return to USC. Now, with all of that happening, none of my credits were able to transfer. So I'm just picking up where I last left off at USC, so into my second year, and that's where I am now. Now, the idea of coming back to USC was exciting, but also I was so scared. Over the years, I'd been trying to train myself and let myself know that I'm on my own journey. I'm on my own path. I'm not competing with anybody to finish school the fastest. Like, everyone's journey is different, and remind myself that it's okay that I'm going back to what feels like the beginning, because it's not the beginning. I need to credit everything of all my experiences I've had in the past, and I have been moving forward to remind myself that I'm doing exactly what I need to do. But part of me was still a little bit scared about coming back. Like, what would my friends who are now in their 5th year think of me coming back and being in my 2nd year? How would it feel being the now oldest in my class? But I've learned that none of that really matters, and at the end of the day, I am happy exactly where I am. I think it's probably just society trying to convince me that I need to be doing things faster. But I realized that for myself, I think everything that I went through is exactly what I had to go through, and I'm in a place where I would not have been if I hadn't gone through it before. And now after this, you would really sit down and question, wow, I'm doing all of this just to study architecture, which takes up so much of my time. It's so stressful. Do I even want to study architecture? And yes, I do. I think about all those moments of excitement that I had going to study architecture. It didn't even matter the institution. I just wanted to study architecture. I wanted to be one with architecture. And so throughout the years, I've learned that I truly do love architecture. It's exactly what I want to study, and I'm excited to be back to study it. So I actually had a full circle moment this year when the Barbie movie came out, because Barbie is actually the reason that I decided to study architecture. When I was younger, I had a few Barbie dolls that I would play with, but what I wanted more than anything was a Barbie dream house. And I never got it. So I had to make my own Barbie dream house. I would take books and cups and anything around the house that I could find and build these Barbie dream houses for my dolls. I would come up with these floor plans, and I would start sketching them out and drawing them to see how I could make this Barbie dream house for my dolls. Now, once again, I never got this Barbie dream house, but this eventually just turned into a love for architecture, and now I can't imagine studying anything else. Additionally, I wrote my college admission essay about Barbie, and to the final words of my college admission essay that I wrote in 2018, I never did build the Barbie dream house for my dolls, but I will make sure to build it for my mother, building my own dream of being an architect along the way. And I'm happy to say that that is still the dream. I am most thankful to my parents for all their sacrifices that they made and all the hard work that they put in to allow me to really chase after this dream and continue my studies. And since I was a child, my mother has prayed for her Barbie dream house and she has yet to receive it. So I'm going to make sure that that is what she gets. So with all of that being said, let the architecture games begin. Oh, and last thing, UCLA sucks.
Oh, baby, I love USC. Oh, my God. And I hate UCLA.
I don't believe that.
UCLA. Oh, baby, I love USC. And I hate UCLA. And I hate UCLA.